With the Middle East in constant turmoil, many Bible interpreters are speculating whether the Jewish temple would be rebuilt in the next months and years. Today, I'm informing you that the Third Temple preparations and ceremony have begun. While the news of the Third Temple's construction is met with joy and praise to God, many people question the Third Temple's role in fulfilling Bible prophecies. If you want to know what the Third Temple building is all about, how it impacts Christianity, and if it is already in existence, then continue watching. We will answer all your questions in this video. Make sure to stick around and watch till the end. But first, we must start from the very beginning, the Feast of the Tabernacle. The Feast of the Tabernacles, also known as Sukkot, or the Festival of Tents or Booths, is a Hebrew feast celebrated by the Israelites to commemorate their liberation from Egypt by the mighty hand of God.
You may have noticed outdoor huts popping up all over the city this week. The temporary structures are called sukkahs and are part of the Jewish holiday of Sukkot.
High after Yom Kippur, it is a celebration. It is all about joy.
It is a 7-day autumn festival celebrating the Israelites' 40-year journey through the desert. Sukkot, along with Passover and the Festival of Weeks, is one of 3 biblical pilgrimage feasts when all Jewish males were asked to show before the God in the Temple of Jerusalem. The Jewish people built makeshift tents for this feast, just as the Israelites did while wandering in the desert. This joyful holiday commemorates God's salvation, shelter, provision, and dependability. It became the 7th and final feast observed by the Israelites after their deliverance from Egypt. The Feast of the Tabernacles is mentioned throughout the Bible, including in Leviticus chapter 23, verses 33 through 34, which says, "The Lord instructed Moses once more to inform the people of Israel that the Feast of Booths, which lasts 7 days, will take place on the 15th of this 7th month." Nehemiah chapter 8, verses 17 through 18 says, "The whole group of people who have escaped imprisonment built booths and occupied them. In fact, from the time of Joshua, the son of Nun, until that time, the sons of Israel had not done so, and there was a tremendous deal of joy. Every day from the start to the last, he read from the book of God's law. 7 days were spent celebrating the feast, and on the 8th day, a solemn assembly was held in accordance with the law." And other Bible verses like Ezra chapter 3 verse 4, Leviticus chapter 23 verses 34 through 43, and John chapter 7 verse 23. This Feast of the Tabernacle rejoices at a future time. God's presence will again dwell with us on earth. Sukkot was never forgotten because it was a holiday created by God. It was even observed under the reign of Solomon when he dedicated the temple on the Feast of Tabernacles holiday. He followed Moses' instructions by offering sacrifices on the Sabbaths, new moon festivals, and 3 annual festivals of Passover, the Harvest Festival, and the Festival of Shelters. All of these things are seen in 2 Chronicles chapter 8, verse 13. The Feast of Tabernacles and the Third Temple building. The Feast of Tabernacles and the Third Temple building are connected. This is because the feast celebrates a time when God will dwell again on earth with man in his temple. The temple was never an ordinary building or structure for the Israelites. It was supposed to be an earthly dwelling place for the Lord, according to Exodus chapter 25 verse 8, which says, "Let them build a sanctuary for me, and I will live Shachin among them." It was where the Israelites were supposed to go during the Tabernacle Feast. But since there was no temple in Moses' time, God had to keep the location of the Feast of Tabernacles hidden until it was time to celebrate it. For those who don't know, the Third Temple is a crucial part of the end times events that will lead to the rapture and signal the coming of our Lord, Yeshua. It is one of those phenomenal end-time events that is happening before our very own eyes. And it was supposed to happen after the prophecy of Amos, which says, I will return my banished people, Israel, and they will rebuild and reside in the shattered cities. They will establish vineyards and drink their wine. They will create gardens and devour the fruits of their labor. I will plant Israel in their own country, so that they will never be uprooted from the place I have given them again. Amos chapter 8, verses 14 through 15. Hebrew prophets predicted that Israel's exiles would return to the Promised Land in the end days, and that the temple would be rebuilt. These remarkable end-time feats are beginning to happen in our generation. This prophecy is being fulfilled now as Jewish people from all corners of the world have returned to Israel after nearly 1900 years in exile. Isn't it amazing to know that God's words never fail? The Third Temple.
We want to show you a prophetic shift that occurred when the Temple Mount came back into Jewish hands.
The Third Temple is the most significant prophecy of all time. The Third Temple is said to restore the light that left the Temple Mount when the Lord's divine presence left after Solomon's temple was destroyed. It is also believed that the Third Temple will reconnect all of God's creation with one another, as it is the holy temple that allows all of humanity to engage in a direct, dynamic relationship with God and allows each of us to reach our full potential. Once it is built, more and more end-time prophecies will come to pass, and it will only be a matter of time before the rapture takes place. The Jewish people are the ones to build the Third Temple, but many believe it can never happen. Around the world, many doubters declare that God has rejected the people of Israel and turned his back on them due to their rebellious acts. But the Bible does not say that. Instead, it says God can never abandon his people forever, as it is seen in Isaiah chapter 41, verse 9, which says, "You, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, descendant of Abraham, my friend, you whom I have summoned from the ends of the world, saying to you, you are my servant, I have chosen you, and have not rejected you." Isaiah chapter 43, verses 5 and 6 also speaks to the Israelites' return to Jerusalem when it says, "Do not be afraid. I will gather thee from the west and bring thee seed from the east. I will tell the north to give up, and the south not to hold back. Summon my boys from far away, and my girls from the ends of the world." This Feast of the Tabernacle rejoices that at a future time, God's presence will again dwell with us on earth. Sukkot was never forgotten because it was a holiday created by God. It was observed under the reign of Solomon, who followed Moses' instructions by offering sacrifices on the Sabbaths, new moon festivals, and the 3 annual festivals of Passover, the Harvest Festival, and the Festival of Shelters. 2 Chronicles chapter 8, verse 13. The prophecies. The fulfillment of God's words or prophecies written in the Bible is beginning to happen, with some starting as crises in the Middle East and other parts of the world. This brings to our memory what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 24, verse 34, which says, "This makes us remember what Jesus said in, 'This generation will not pass until all these things are completed. I assure you.'" We discovered important information concerning the function of a restored temple in the last days in the prophetic writings of the book of Daniel and the New Testament. Before the Messiah's return, the anti-Messiah will desecrate the Third Temple, according to the prophecies of Daniel and Yeshua. They both refer to this spiritual contamination in the temple as the abomination of desolation. This prophecy is beginning to take place, as there has been an announcement of rebuilding this Third Temple as prophesied in the Bible. We are convinced that this prince or ruler, Nagid, the anti-Messiah, will manifest precisely as Daniel foretells through the study of several end-time scriptures. According to Daniel, he will uphold a peace treaty for 1 week. commonly translated as 7 years, but he will fail to follow through after 3.5 years. This anti-Messiah will also make himself God, who exalteth and opposeth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, demonstrating himself to be God. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4. And he will confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the middle of the week he will halt the sacrifice and oblation, and for the spread of abominations he will make it desolate, even until the conclusion, and that which is decreed will be poured over the desolate. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. The preparation of the Third Temple. The two primary Jewish groups in charge of making preparations for the Third Temple and the restoration of sacrifice worship are the Temple Institute, the Temple Mount, and Eretz Yisrael Faithful Movement. Other organizations also have their plans. However, the main reasons for the Third Temple's preparation are to restore God's divine presence that left this world at Temple Mount as seen by the prophet Ezekiel. And in my sight, the cherubim spread their wings and rose from the ground. And when they went out, the wheels also were beside them. And everyone stood at the door of the Lord's house, east gate. And the glory of God of Israel, Ezekiel chapter 10, verses 18 and 19. And to help all humanity have a strong relationship with God. Through heavenly revelation, Ezekiel also glimpsed the restoration of God's eternal and unchanging habitation on the Temple Mount in the holy city of Jerusalem. The gate facing east was where the glory of the Lord entered the temple. In the temple, I overheard someone speaking to me. "Son of man, this is the location of my throne and the location of the soles of my feet," he said. "I will always reside here among the Israelites." Ezekiel chapter 43, verses 4 through 7. Everything needed to make the Third Temple holy and acceptable to God is being created and placed in its proper place. The golden menorah, the 7-branched candelabra, and all the Levitical musical instruments, like the silver trumpets, lyres, and harps, are already made, and they will be used to worship the Lord in the temple, just as King David did 3,000 years ago. In 1 Chronicle chapter 23, verse 5. About 500 Jewish men, said to be direct descendants of Aaron the high priest, are also trained to perform temple duties. And the red heifer, an essential element of the sacrifice, is being bred by Israel as we speak. And it will be used for the ritual purification of the priests and the vessels, so they may formally enter the holiest of the holy areas on the entire earth. As Christians, we must never give up hope. And as we want the rapture to come, and the redemption that will happen when the Messiah comes back to earth, we must maintain hunger for the promised land and God's presence in our hearts at all times. The preparation of the Third Temple is happening in our time, and as Christians, we must be confident that this end-time Bible prophecy will be realized very soon, maybe in the twinkle of an eye. But while we look forward to the quick completion of the Third Temple, we would like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Do you believe this will be the final prophecy fulfilled before the arrival of the Messiah? Or are there still more prophecies that need to take place before the rapture? Don't forget to like and share our content if you enjoyed this video. Also, please subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you don't miss out on the next video. Thank you.